Well, good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday, November the 11th, 2025. And this morning it looks like we're going to be running the local. Not a heavy job today, but we'll still take care of our near and dear customers. Power today being two MP15s. The power desk decided that 2 units would be sufficient since we're only leaving with 8 and coming back with, I think, 11 or 13. Let's see what we actually have here. Coming back with 13. Most of those that are coming back will be empties, so the tonnage is not an issue. So our 2 engines have already gotten coupled up, and the conductor has walked the brakes, and the only thing they have to do now is pull up on the ladder to clear the switch, back down and pick up their caboose and do another quick air test, and they'll be on their way. So let's see what we can get done here today with them, and we'll follow along. And it takes care of the bell. A couple things that have happened prior to this operating is track cleaning, switch cleaning, wheel cleaning, that kind of thing, just general maintenance to make sure that everything should function correctly. Now, saying that, I also realize that I have jinxed myself, and this generally means that my house will probably catch fire or something like that. But let's cross our fingers and hope for the best. The crew is carefully backing down to make the coupling on the caboose. We certainly don't want to spill the conductor's coffee at all, or have an issue where we hit too hard and his paperwork gets mashed. I think that was pretty good. It's good to have a crew that pays attention. We'll give it a little stretch and see if we got the caboose, which I believe they do. Oh yeah, we definitely have it. So we'll put some air into the caboose and do one more brake test just to make sure that the brakes apply and release on the caboose. Paperwork's all done and ready. Switch lists are in hand, and the first customer is going to be Grant Steel. We have, I think, 5 to pick up and 2 to drop off. So we'll head over there and see what we can catch. Grant Steel not being far outside of Duquesne Yard as it was on the Union so many years ago. The crew doesn't have to travel very far to get to it. And fortunately, it looks like the blue flag is down. The derail is actually down, which is kind of nice. That helps. And all we have to do is pull up to hold 5 cars from the rear. We're going to cut the caboose off and go in, grab our 5 to pull, set 2 out into the industry, and then head on down to the next one, which our paperwork says, I believe, is Butler Refractories, but we shall see once we get done here. So we made the cut behind the 2 empties that go in. Which are those 2 high gons right there. And you can see the loads in the back. We'll pull all 5 of them out. Backing in for the first cut, which will be the 3 loaded guns on the left. Even though there's no coffee to spill, we still like eggshell couplings, if we can do it. Let's give it a stretch and see if we have them. Nope. Hit it again. See what happens. I think we got it that time, but we'll take a look. Stretch it again. Yep, we got them that time. Conductor's going to go ahead and put the air into the brake pipe, knock some handbrakes off, and when he's made sure that everything is in the clear, pull ahead about 3.5 cars, throw the switch, and reach over and grab the other 2 loads and set them out all of the main. Operating at realistic speeds, especially when it comes to industries, certainly can make it more of an entertaining operating session. I prefer it that way after doing it for so long as a career. Oh, that one didn't make. Let's hit it again. Let's see if we got it that time. Nope, I have to line some knuckles up here. But to my point, making it more realistic, I think, makes it more entertaining and gives you a better sense of how the railroad really works versus slamming into cars and industries and coupling and just going the other way immediately. But that, of course, is my personal preference, and I would never tell anybody to do anything otherwise. It's entirely up to you how you want to run your railroad. But if you happen to come here and you want to operate, this is how we do it here. So let's get that knuckle fixed and get on the move. Now we got them all. Interestingly enough, the reporting marks for the last car coming out here is P&WV, the old Pittsburgh and West Virginia, which actually did interchange with the Union a very long time ago. And interestingly enough, I was able to find a picture of this specific car, P&WV 7334, online, and it was in service as late as 1982, still in P&WV. So I decided, well, I think that's worthy of a model. So since it was accurate and prototypical, I thought, well, why not just do that? So I made one P&WV car. I'm sure that there are those Union and P&WV fans that will have an appreciation for that. So hopefully we made the cut earlier in the right spot so we don't have to shove the caboose back any further than it is. It looks like we're going to be okay on clearance. But we're going to shove back to the caboose, and the cut should clear the switch on the main, which it does. And now we have the cut made, and we're going to pull ahead. Leave all those cars there, set our 2 empties in, and head on to Butler. The other thing about having realistic speeds when it comes to operating a layout is it does allow the operating session to take a little bit longer, and depending on what your preference is on operating sessions, if you like running longer times and just kind of enjoying the ride, this is the way to go. If you want to just run trains and run trains and run trains, which I have no problem with, that's the way to go for you. So it works either way. That's the joy of this hobby. Let's cut these cars off and head on out of here. Now, after walking the brakes and getting back on the caboose, conductor says he's ready to go. But this puts our engines right at Grand Avenue Extension, so let's make sure the traffic stays where it's supposed to, and we don't hit anybody. How about that? Might help if we go the right way. Looking at our paperwork, that Pittsburgh and Lake Erie hopper right there goes in, and we're going to pull the covered hopper out. So we'll see how that plays out. It shouldn't be too bad. Won't take us very long to get that done. On passing the switch into the industry, it looks like the derail is already down and the blue flag is down. So let's make a cut and go grab a car. The brakeman has already positioned himself at the switch and confirmed that the derail is down and there is no blue flag, so it's okay to go in and pull. The conductor's gone inside the building to check the car, make sure that the handbrake is knocked off, make sure there's no wheel chocks, and make sure that nobody is around the car so that we can couple up and move it. Let's see what we get. That didn't make, so let's go and see what we need to do to get that car. Apparently it's in a little deeper than we thought. Not sure if we have it or not, but we're going to pull and find out. So let's give it a stretch. Do we have it? We do. Okay. Put the air in, do a quick brake test, make sure that the brakes apply and release. And we'll go ahead and pull that out of there. Couple it up to the train, and we'll come back and spot up that P&LE car. It would appear that that was a very important car for them, almost like a shutdown car. The foreman has made very short time of putting the derail back up and putting a blue flag up, so we can't go back in. So we will just go ahead and couple our train, hopefully. Let's give it a little pull and see what we got. Yep, we got them. And we're going to head off to the next one, which I think is going to be Fisher Body Plant today. Fisher is just pulling 3 cars, but I think there's more than 3 in there, so we might have to do a couple extra moves, but we'll see when we get there. Brakes are released and we're on our way. According to our switch list, we're only picking up 3 here at Fisher. And it looks like a reefer, boxcar, and a gon. But unless I'm mistaken, I think there's 5 or 6 cars in there. So we're going to have a couple passes, but we'll get through it. So there's Fisher. And all we have to do is just cut behind the engines, and we can reach in and start doing our switching. So let's do that. Dropping down the hill a little bit into Fisher. I'm going to reach in and grab a hold of everything, I guess, because we got to pull everything out and see what we actually have. I know that BAR car right there is definitely on the list to come out, as well as 2 others, but we're going to see what we have. Well, we got a hold of them, so that's a good start. That BAR reefer actually comes from McKeesport Transfer, which is right next door, but it's a switchback move. So McKeesport Transfer has a leased Union MP15 that they keep at the stub end of their siding, so they can shove cars out and pull cars in and spot them up at the building. So looking at our paperwork here, that Santa Fe car is not one of the ones we want. The Conrail car is, and I see 2 gons. We're looking for the loaded one with scrap, so it's at the end. All right, so we're going to set 1 out, 1 back in, 1 out, 1 back in, and then put the train back together, and we'll go on with the next moves. Now, I understand that there are those of you out there who will say, hey, you're modeling the Union Railroad in Pittsburgh. What are you doing with PB&E, Philadelphia, Bethlehem, and New England gondolas? Well, in my world, Fisher Body Plant has multiple contracts for where their scrap goes, and the scrap from metal stamping sometimes goes to the furnaces on the Union, sometimes it goes to the furnaces in Bethlehem. So when it's going to Bethlehem, they use the PB&E gondolas, and when it's staying local on the Union, we use either Union or McKeesport Connecting or Lake Terminal or any of the local roads. But for right now, this load is billed to go to Bethlehem. So that's why we have PB&E on the layout. So the empty is also billed for Bethlehem, but will not be picked up until it is loaded and released. And in the meantime, we'll just set it back down towards the door of the building so we can set that Conrail boxcar back out to the train. And then the Santa Fe back in, and then spot up inside the building. Whoops, it did not uncouple. Huh, well, let's fix that first. Always happens when you're videotaping or you got people over. Oh boy. And with that little issue resolved, did I happen to mention that I also like the PB&E because it's a steel mill railroad. So it's my railroad and I'm going to put what I want on it. So you all can have a nice day. Just kidding. Conrail boxcar full of auto parts. Probably things that they stamped in the mill or in the plant. And that Santa Fe car is going to get loaded eventually, and we'll get picked up probably most likely tomorrow or the following day. So we'll see how that plays out. The Fisher Body Plant puts out a significant number of loads a day, so it keeps the railroad and the layout busy. And then we go with the Santa Fe boxcar up against the gondola. What we'll do is we'll shove that in and spot up in the building. come back out with the reefer, double the train together, do an air test, and probably head to 84 Lumber. That poor tree there is getting tore up by the freight trains. But eventually the branches will break, just like they do on the real railroad. And they won't have to get any tree trimmers out there, or B&B or anybody else to come out there and cut them. They'll just let the cars do it and the engines do it. Normal for the railroad. So let's get these two guys spotted back in the building, and then we are off to 84 Lumber. And as we are arriving at 84 Lumber, mind you, these industries are not very far apart on my layout, which is another reason why I do the realistic speeds and the air brake tests and so on and so forth. Because otherwise you could get this done. If you were Flash Gordon, you could get this whole thing done in about 10 minutes. But where's the fun in that? So we have 2 boxcars to drop off here. And checking our paperwork, we have only 1 to pick up. That C&O chassis car back there is a pickup. The ex-Lehigh Valley Conrail car goes back. So we're going to end up with 1 hanging on the lead, apparently. We can get 2 spotted at the building. And the other track that you see is for flat cars, which we don't have any of, but we can just leave the 3rd car on the lead, and that'll work just fine. The next crew that goes in there, we'll just have to do a little bit more sashaying, which our crews don't like, or they don't mind sashaying, I should say. It's part of the job. It's part of the fun. That's why we're here. So let's go ahead and pick up that chassis car, set the 3 in, and then we get to tackle Atlas Cement. That's the big boy. We're going to try and make relatively quick work of 84. It's not that big a move. Simply pull 1 and respot 3, and just put them at the dock when you spot them back up, and then we can be on our merry way. Well, that didn't couple, so let's hit it again. That was a little tough, but let's see if we got it this time. Yeah, we did. All right. Knock some brakes off, put some air in, get a brake test on them while they're sitting there so they don't run away and they can't go anywhere. And once we get that done, we'll go ahead and pull on out and set 1 out and 3 back in. So we'll skip the set out, and we'll go back in with 3. And once we get these 3 spotted, we'll head on over to Atlas Cement. Won't bother you with the train being put back together and then shoved back and coming across the crossovers and setting the whole train out on the southbound main. We're not going to bother with all that because that's just time consuming, and this video is going to end up being 3.5 weeks long. So we've got our 3 set in. The Green Bay and Western is just going to hang for the next time. And let's go over to Atlas. On the real Union Railroad, at one time, Universal Atlas Cement was one of the largest cement producers in the world and required round-the-clock servicing. Mine, I cannot give it the justice it deserves because it was just an absolute monster facility. But on my layout, I compensate for that by making the switch list a little bit more complicated than it could be. As you see, there's 2 cars here at the end of the siding. Right here is spot 1, that's spot 2. As we look to the right, spot 4 is right there underneath the building, the loading building. and then everything beyond that is on the lead. However, according to today's paperwork, spot 1 and spot 3 are the cars getting pulled. The car in spot 2 goes to spot 1. Then this one goes to spot 2. That one goes to spot 4, and then the rest get set out on the lead. So we definitely have our work cut out for us. Sometimes it takes about 25 or 30 minutes to switch this whole thing out. We're going to expedite that for you, don't worry. So we'll get a couple things done here real quick and get our train back together. Then we got to do a runaround and head for Copper Chemical. And that'll be our last stop before heading back to the yard. Buckle up, here we go. The crew is going to back in and couple to the car to your right at spot 4. And once we have that car, we'll just give it a little yank and make sure it's there. Nope, didn't get it. Well, we'll see if we can hit it hard enough and then shove it back into these other two on spot 1 and 2. And then we'll do all of our switching out on the main. We'll just pull the whole track. And the way the paperwork looks, it's set 1 out to the main, 1 back, 1 out, and then everything back and spot up. So hopefully it won't be too terrible. Let's see what that stretch does for us this time. Did we get them all? Nope, we sure didn't. Let's hit it again. What's going on here today? It looked like it coupled that time. Nope. I hit it one more time. 3rd time's a charm. Let's try it. All right. I don't know what's going on. I'll be right back. All right. The first car comes out and goes against the train. And that Conrail car goes back in. And then the next one comes out, and then we go back in and spot up. Actually, not as bad as I thought it would have been. And coming back in with the first car for spot 1. Southern goes back to the main. And then W goes in for spot 2. The other Southern goes in for spot 4. That actually works out really well. And then everything else hangs on the lead. And then we're done with Atlas. So, quick work. Obviously, I need to rewrite my lists, so there's much more to do here to keep everybody busy. Or to keep them busy enough to keep from strangling me. One or the other. Since I write my own switch lists, I have only myself to blame for how heavy or light the jobs are, which also affects me when I do these videos. Sometimes I don't run the layout for a month after I write the lists and may forget what was on the list. Pardon the giant hand. And if I do forget what's on the list, sometimes I surprise myself when I come down here and I think to myself, what was I thinking? But I have only myself to blame. So don't see myself strangling myself over this anytime soon. I'm having too much fun. And it appears that somebody has caught the attention of Johnny Law down here. Not sure if they're a rail fan just hanging out, speeder, trespasser, alien invader, who knows. On this layout it could be anything. But we won't bother Johnny Law because he's got work to do and we have work to do. So we're going to spot this Conrail car over the grate right there at spot number 1. And we're going to make our cut because the N and W car then falls into place on spot 2. And as the brakeman ties the brakes down, conductor pulls ahead and gets that other southern car to spot 4. All this is happening in the background. We're wary of Johnny Law. And our conductor makes quick work of this. And then pulls the rest of the cars up on to the lead. Sorry about the jiggling. And leaves them far enough so that if the company needs to move the cars by cable, it's not going to interfere with anything or hit anybody else. Okay, one run around and off we go to Coppers and then to the yard, and we're done. As our crew arrives at their last stop of the day, we're going to make a cut behind 6 cars. But we're going to leave enough room to pull one. There's one tank car that's got to come out and one has to go in. So it's a pretty easy swap here. And then after that, we'll just go ahead and walk the train, update our paperwork for the yard crew, and head into the yard and just let them take over, which makes for a good day. So we'll make a cut behind this tank car here. Looks like we need a little slack. That should do. And we'll reach in and we'll pull one and we'll respot one. The sharp-eyed brakeman has caught the scene where there is a wheel chock up against that lead car. So they're going to have to stop and take that wheel chock out. Some of my industries are on a little bit of a grade, so I made some wheel chocks to keep the cars from rolling out of sidings, as well as installed all the derails, which also helps. So we'll get that out of the way, and then we'll get the rest of this move done. 77374 is coming out, and 77411 goes in. So we'll go ahead and get this guy out. There's no specific spots on this other than the end of the track is the unloading position. So we don't have to shuffle anything around. We can just pile the drop off right on top of the rest of them, which makes things a little easier for us. We'll get that spotted up and head for the barn. And our crew is shoving back in with 3 tank cars to spot. The rear one is right there. Exactly where we want it. And we're going to go back out against our train. And the conductor or the brakeman will walk the train, look at the paperwork, make sure we got all the cars right that we were supposed to have. And if he's feeling nice, which ours generally are, he will update the paperwork to show what order the cars are in. That way the yard crew knows what order to switch them out in. So let's take a look and see what we ended up with. Now, looking at the order of our cars, they're a little mixed up, but this is the way they're coming into the yard. So this helps the yard crew switch things out when they couple up and get ready to classify it. You'll see that there's 2 classifications on the right-hand column, CL and KN. CL would be for the Claret and Coke Works, and KN is for Kenny Yard, which is interchange or on my layout staging. So there's going to be a number of cars staying in the class yard and a number of cars leaving. But we try to help the yard crew out as much as we can. And we have actually left our power for them on the ladder so they can get that started when they're ready to finish their coffee and knock this out. And for some reason my Cell phone camera is acting like a putz right now, but we'll do the best we can with it. And thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. And we'll see if we can get another one of these out to you relatively soon. Take care and have a great day.